The next thing the Baal Shem Tov told us was that you have to serve God with joy. That sadness is not acceptable, it's not kosher, it's not holy, it's got to go. You must serve God with joy. The joy of what?
Life.
But it's the Baal Shem Tov who has to tell us that? Can't Dr. Phil tell us that? Why did it even need to be said? What were Jews doing before the Baal Shem Tov? Serving God with what? With depression. To be truly pious, you had to be slightly depressed. It was true. Oh yeah, there's a mitzvah to dance on Simchas Torah, so okay, we'll try. But there was no joy. So when the Baal Shem Tov came along and said, serve God with joy, the Orthodox community was horrified. That seemed so frivolous, so un-Jewish. Happy Jews? Who ever heard of such a thing? And what have you got to be happy about anyway? You sinned at least twice this year. You're in trouble. Don't make like you're happy. The Baal Shem Tov came along and said, what is wrong with you? You don't have reason to be happy? To be a devout Jew, you have to be depressed? That's like saying, you know, if you're going to be devoted to your husband, that's pretty depressing. Oh, it is? Yes. If your husband couldn't care less, it is very depressing. Before the Baal Shem Tov, we had no idea that God really cared. Oh, he punished when you were out of line. But did he really care? Nobody knew. I mean, read the Ten Commandments. Does it sound like he cares? You shall have no other gods before me. I am a jealous God. Don't take my name in vain. Don't kill. Don't steal. Don't. That's it. Bye. I mean, that's really heartwarming stuff, you know? So if you just read it, it sounds like he really doesn't care. He's just warning you. I'm just telling you. Behave yourself or you're going to get it. So what do we got to be happy about? The Baal Shem Tov came along and said, why do you think God is such a monster? Where do you get that impression from? Of course, he didn't gush with love the first time we met. Who does? It was our first date. So at Mount Sinai, no, God was not overly emotional. He just introduced himself. But look at what's happened in the course of the years. I mean, in the Navi, God does get a little more personal. Why do I come and nobody answers? Why do you think I want your sacrifices? I don't want your sacrifices, I want you. See, he's getting a little personal. Then in Tehillim, he gets really personal. You are my firstborn, you are my... And then in the Song of Songs, that's embarrassingly personal. So the Baal Shem Tov basically said, why do you take things so mechanical and so impersonally when everything about creation and everything about God shouts relationship, intimacy, personal? How can you miss that? And therefore, you have reason to be happy. I got a phone call. Maybe you've heard this before, but I got a phone call a few years ago. A guy on the other line says, I don't want to tell you my name. I live in a small town in Oregon. I was born Jewish. I'm a retired psychoanalyst. And for the last 36 years, I've been practicing Christianity. But now that I'm getting older, I would like to feel connected to my people. So what can I do to feel connected to my people? So I said, you get a pair of tefillin, you put them on every morning, you'll feel connected to your people. He says, I can't do that. Every time I've tried to do something Jewish, it's been a bad experience. Psychoanalyst. So I said, nobody's Jewish because it's been a good experience. If you do what God needs from Jews, then you'll feel like a Jew. If you do what God needs from non-Jews, you won't. He says, God needs? I've never heard of that. So I'm losing patience with this guy. Doesn't tell me his name. Asks for a suggestion. I give him a suggestion. No, he can't do anything Jewish. What exactly do you want? And then now he's arguing theology with me. So I very impatiently said, look, God is infinite, right? He says, yes. In all things, right. So he's infinitely patient, he's infinitely kind, he's infinitely knowing, so he must also be infinitely vulnerable. He says, vulnerable? God is vulnerable? God is almighty. So he had stepped into the trap. I said, doctor, are you suggesting that vulnerability is a weakness? He got very flustered and he hung up the phone. A couple of days later he calls back, still doesn't tell me his name. He says, where do I get the tefillin? I said, why all of a sudden? He says, well, because coming from my professional background, I can't accept Christianity. I said, after 36 years? He says, no, you got to understand. From my professional background, if somebody says, I love you very, very much, but you can't hurt me, that's manipulation. That's not love at all. So the message that God loves you very, very much, and if you're not interested and you don't care, then you'll go to hell forever. That's not love. That's manipulation. It's love me or else. So that's it. I can't. Anyway, I didn't hear from him for a while, and about a year ago, he called me up. He says, I just want to tell you I've moved from this little town in Oregon where there are no Jews. He moved to Pico Robertson. Like, whoa, I say, you're going from one extreme to the other. I still don't know his name. But the point that he makes is a very good one. How can you claim that God loves you if he's not vulnerable? There's no such love. How can you claim God loves you if, should you reject him, he couldn't care less? What kind of love is that? So it's not possible that God, who claims to love us, is not hurt by our rejection. And it can't be that God loves us only to the degree that he'll do us a favor and tell us how to stay out of hell, how to be saved from Satan. It can't be. If God claims to love us, then it must be a legitimate love. And a legitimate love means you love someone who might hate you back. And that's why we have had a very interesting, powerful, meaningful relationship with God over the last couple of thousand years. We've been angry at him, he's been angry at us, he's hated us, we hated him. This is real stuff. And in the end, he's not leaving and we're not leaving. He's our God and we're his people. And in the end, it'll all be good. That's a relationship. So the Baal Shem Tov was saying, you wake up in the morning, you have reason to be happy because you are involved, committed, stuck in a profound, intimate relationship that will never go away. What have you got to be sad about?